thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Kathryn, and I am one of the founders and CEO of a technology education company called Decoded. And I love learning, so I just have to say thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here today because I've learned so much from everyone else's speeches. Thank you. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit of my personal journey, founding and building and growing a technology education business. And I've also recently just joined the board of the Department for Business and Industrial Strategy in the UK. As Lawrence was just saying, diving into politics, even though I only know about technology and business. I think I'm about 20 years younger than anyone else who's sitting on the board within government, so it should be interesting. And I want to share some of those insights from across the world of government, education, and business, and why I believe that the future is being written in lines of code, and we can all be a part of it. So, we've talked about it today. This is the topic. The fourth industrial revolution. Klaus Schwab dubbed it this. And he said in this book that we have never faced a time of greater promise or greater peril. And I think that beautifully sums up the kind of debates that we've been having today. The world is changing. And the world of work is changing in response to that too. It was cited earlier, up to 50% of jobs could be easily replaced by machines. They say in the next 10 years. I think, it could be in the next 3 years, it could be now. This study was done by the Oxford Martin Institute about 3 years ago. And we've talked a lot about humanity, and I really do want to humanize these statistics. So, 3 million people employed in truck driving roles in the USA alone. And we saw this startup earlier today, OTTO, driverless truck startup. There are also 3 million people called Dave in America. So just imagine every single Dave in America out of a job. Really humanize these people who are losing their jobs. And how about 4 million people employed in administrative roles in the US? And meet Alexa. Alexa has 10,000 skills. Do you know a human being? Are you sitting next to a human being who has 10,000 skills? I doubt it. Now, a colleague recently returned from a lights-out factory. They hadn't put the lights on because there wasn't a human being working in that factory. There are 13 million people in the US employed in manufacturing roles alone. Now, it's quite interesting because usually when you discuss these statistics, actually there are a few thoughts going on in people's minds. I was giving a debate at the Cambridge Union, and really, here we go, here's an Amazon distribution house. People were saying, do you know what, these are horrible jobs. These are horrible jobs, no one wants to do them anyway. It would be much better if they were replaced by machines. But what's the solution? What jobs are we inventing to replace those roles? It's quite arrogant of us to say, get rid of those jobs. They're not worth doing. Because when there is high unemployment, there's high civic unrest. Just look at the Uber riots that happened in Paris, and you're beginning to see these little flames grow everywhere. And how about this? Did anyone hear about the 19-year-old coder who created the first ever chatbot lawyer? It overturned 160,000 parking fines in New York and London. Incredible. But it's interesting, it's a lawyer. So the other thing that I hear is, my job's going to be safe because I do quite a clever job. But this is a totally different technology revolution. This is going to replace those thinking roles, those cognitive tasks. Lawyers, doctors, bankers, maybe even CEOs of technology companies, so we should all watch out. And how about this? There are 2 jobs which are least likely to be replaced by machines, because I got my hands on that data done by the team at the Oxford Martin Institute. And yes, I've given you a choice here of going into the clergy or becoming a choreographer. And yes, Zumba teachers were in there too. So if you're a Zumba teaching kind of choreographer who's also a priest, you are very, very safe. And what is it saying that is safe from technology? It is pure purpose, mission, values, vision, but also creativity. Can machines replace that? Fundamentally, the world is changing. Technology is impacting everything. Every single industry, every single sector, every single one of our behaviors. Who doesn't reach for their phone within 1 minute of waking up in the morning? Every single economy, everything is being impacted by technology. And it's all being driven by this, by the ones and zeros, the codes, the languages sending instructions to machines. Yet how many people can confidently say that they understand the technologies behind the screen, that they feel confident about the technologies behind the screen? I mean, in this room, how many hands would go up to that question? Well, that's not rare. I have asked that, yeah, our next speaker, of course. I have asked that question to tens of thousands of people, and many more. And I would confidently estimate that less than 0.001% of the world could raise their hand to that question. Now think again, the thing that is impacting everything, all our lives, every industry, every sector, doesn't that feel wrong? There's a disparity. Do you know, there are probably more people who study Latin and ancient Greek at university than study coding or computer science. In fact, I was talking to a Cambridge professor who was saying that that is in fact the case. And I have a horrible confession that I studied Latin and ancient Greek at Cambridge. I did not study computer science. But I did discover coding in about 2005. And for me, it was just another language. That's how I saw it. It was the language, but a slightly more irrelevant language, let's say, because it is the language of billions. But for me, it was a language because, you know, how can you come up with an idea in a void of knowledge? How do you realize the art of what's possible in this world without really understanding the ingredients? Then even further than that, I wanted to be able to actually communicate my ideas, my digital ideas, to, say, a coder or a manager, someone who could actually create them for me. But I couldn't do it because I didn't have the vocabulary. And then even further, what if I wanted to create that idea myself, just to prototype it? Well, I couldn't do it with a pen and a piece of paper. I needed those tools and skills that were relevant to me. And I was left feeling very frustrated. I was left feeling illiterate. I was left feeling a little bit stupid. And really, that's why for me, I think that technology education is the answer to the fourth industrial revolution. And it's why, going back to 2011, I founded Decoded. So Decoded was a response to that. And really, it was founded on a few kind of just basic principles that have really stuck with us since we started. And that was, I wanted to get hands-on. I didn't want to be told about what an API was. I didn't want to be told about blockchain and AI. I wanted to actually get my hands dirty and do it myself. Then fast, accelerated learning. I couldn't go back to university for 3 years. I didn't have time. But then second of all, if I had actually tried to find a university to teach me, I wouldn't have been able to find somewhere to go. Transformation. I wanted rapid, accelerated learning and transformation, and it's the name of the idea attests. Really, take away the fear. That image with the ones and zeros is what stops people learning. It looks so scary. Take away the fear, take away the jargon, take away the cliches. Now, rewind to 2011. It was very much before this kind of moment that Lawrence was talking about in the London tech scene. I absolutely agree with him about creating those grassroots communities. I took a credit card, I took out a loan on the credit card, I borrowed 10 laptops, went to a warehouse in East London and taught 10 people around a kitchen table. And to be honest, I took the laptops back the next day. So it was very, very, very much the lean technology startup. But to fast forward to last year, we taught in 85 different cities across the world, and that's just a selection from the last 3 months. It really resonated with global leaders and people in business. Of course, every business is being touched by technology transformation. And they would fly to East London, sit in our warehouse to learn how to code. Now we come to them. And really, it's not just about code, it's every single future skill that I want to decode, code, data, AI, cybersecurity, making it hands-on, teaching people to code a chatbot in an hour, make it artificially intelligent in 3 hours. These are the things that we set ourselves challenges for. Decode anything, any dark art. And I want to share some of the insights that are common across every single industry and sector and geography we've worked in. Number one, this is happening. Yeah, books have been written about it, the lean and agile books and the fourth industrial revolution. It's no longer in books. Every single board and business that we are working with is thinking about how they can automate or implement artificial intelligence that potentially could reduce their organization by about a third. And, we've seen lots of robots today, and I kind of wonder whether Hiroshi, it would be easier managing one of those robots than actually managing a human being. I bet they don't take sick days. I bet they don't have family dramas. So, yes, I can understand that people will want to do that. And leaders in business are thinking that the capabilities and skill sets that they have within their business are needing to radically change. Jeff Immelt, who just stepped down, I think, this week, a previous CEO of General Electric, a company we've been doing a lot of work with in North America, he said a few years ago, I want every new hire to learn how to code. Why? Why does he want people to do that? Well, he's transforming that business. They're becoming a data-driven business, a software business. And in order to do that, they need transformation throughout that entire business in skills terms. Number one, they need software developers and programmers to actually create that platform. Number two, you need creative thinkers who understand technology, UX designers, programmers, and managers to actually build products and services on top of that platform that you can sell to your customers. Your salespeople need to understand that platform. They need to be digitally literate salespeople who also need to educate your customers about a new technology. That's transformation from the top right through an organization. But you know what? McKinsey released a report saying that 85% of companies are not even implementing technology to any strategic degree within their business. You'd think everyone would be going on that journey, but why? Why? Most of them have their head in the sand. Is it because they're afraid of the change? Or is it because they think that it will simply just go away if they don't do anything? Well, actually, I think a lot of those businesses will die. And why? Because this is the competition. Here we have Ma Huateng, the CEO and founder of Tencent, China's most valuable company. And I think they have a very fascinating culture of innovation. So, for example, anyone can come up with ideas. It's not an incredibly hierarchical organization. Anyone can communicate with Ma on their own messaging platform with an idea. And if they have the skills, if they're able to code, prototype ideas, they are allowed to use any of the data within that business to create those products. And those products, if they are data-proofed, they then win huge cash prizes. This is lean, this is agile in action, this is real. And also, it's not fluffy. When people talk about innovation, it can sometimes sound a bit woolly. They describe their own culture of innovation as being cannibalistic. So that is the competition. There's a war for talent. Here's Otto, the driverless truck startup that I showed earlier. They were bought for a reported $700 million by Uber. What are they buying? They're buying 70 people. They're buying the talent. So there is a land grab for these companies in AI, data, and cybersecurity. But that's where the problem lies. You simply cannot buy all this talent. The problem lies in the education system. I'm personally super proud to have been part of the UK's campaign to put coding as a mandatory on the national curriculum in 2014. And I'm excited to hear about all the kind of initiatives happening here as well. Has a lot changed? It was a fantastic curriculum. Well, I hate to say, I don't think the big skills shortage problem has been solved. Why? Because we need an education revolution, not an evolution. We need to rip it up and reimagine it for an entirely new society that we're going into. There are some examples of this that have been talked about before. Every single industry and sector has been impacted by technology, but I dare you to go and Google image search, lecture or classroom, 1910, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. You'll get pretty much the same image. Education is the last to undergo its own digital transformation, but now makes it a really exciting time. I think there are some really exciting examples I want to share with you where people are getting it right. Number one, here is a coding school in Paris called École 42. People are going wild. The French are teaching people in Silicon Valley how to code. How did that happen? There are some interesting aspects about this school that I think make it different, make it education revolution, not evolution. It's privately funded, so you don't need to pay to attend. Entrance doesn't rely upon your previous academic records. You're made to do problem-solving tasks, and they assess you on that, so you could have the richest kid in Paris next to the poorest kid. There's no curriculum. No, they just set challenges and problems. It's an incredibly innovative school. Over 70,000 people tried to apply to this school in the last year. They could only take 1,000. Guess what? They also have no teachers. So expect more École 42s to open up in the next few years because of those 1,000 students applying for that school. Most of them get hired before they've graduated, and the rest, they go on to start high-growth, scale-up startup businesses. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, you have something like the Vector Institutes. They set a big ambition. They said they want to create the most number of PhD-level data scientists in the world in the next few years. I believe in the UK that there's a shortage currently of about 300,000 data-literate individuals needed within business alone. We're going to launch a data academy at the end of next month with the ambition of closing that gap. But it's fascinating that they set that big ambition, but what makes this a good example, is it's a collaboration. It's a collaboration between government. Government put £150 million straight up into this school. Business, over 30 businesses have collaborated to make this school happen, including Google, Accenture, and a host of others, and academia. So it's rolling out across 3 cities in Canada, across the university system. Why are we not more joined up in terms of academia, business, and government? And I think the solutions will lie there. And then the great promise of this, the online learning revolution. You can all in this room learn to become a driverless car engineer overnight, just going on this Udacity course. What an incredible promise. But we know that there are challenges when it comes to the human contract and people wanting to learn with human beings, but the promise is still there. But us as human beings, we are also slightly the challenge and the problem. There's so much to learn. It leaves us asking ourselves, what do we want to learn? Who do we want to be? This is a very relevant question to ask yourself. Whether you are a business leader, what do you want your business to be in the next 10 years? Or whether you're an individual. And it's something that I constantly ask myself. This is my actual notebook. What do you want to be able to do? What do you actually want to be able to do? This is fundamental because when we talk about code and data and AI and teaching people coding, it's so abstract. It's so abstract you can hardly imagine what it is you're going to be learning. But this is what I've been doing, my Future Skills Essentials, and this is exactly how we map out the products, our product roadmap within the business. What do I want to learn? What do I want to be able to do? Where do I feel frustrated? It really started with, I want to be able to have a conversation with a technical person and not feel like I don't understand what I'm talking about, or I don't know how much it should cost, or they've just used the word API. I'm too embarrassed to ask them, what does that mean? But then I wanted to take it further. I wanted to be able to prototype that digital idea. I wanted to create an MVP, and I wanted to do it in 3 hours. And then I wanted to be able to test that idea with open and live data. And I wanted to be unhackable. So last year we created a course teaching people how to perform the very hacks that you hear about in the news. Because only that way can you truly understand where your vulnerabilities are and truly make yourself safe. And the ambition for this year is to be artificially intelligent. And sometimes I think when I have my iPhone in my hand, I'm already artificially intelligent. But harnessing the power of the global brain, I want to be able to do that by learning a few lines of code. And I want to do it in a way that anyone else can learn too. Everyone should be able to do these things. And I think anyone can learn to do these things. Then it's not comprehensive at all. And I would love for you all to get together at the end and talk to each other about what is it that you want to learn to do? What do you want to learn to be able to do? Now, back to the problem of humans. So this is taken from a book by Thomas Friedman called Thank You for Being Late. Humans, we don't change so much. Technology, changing very rapidly. So, yeah, human beings don't like change. We will not change as fast as the pace of technology. But I often hear this thing that, it takes the human being 10,000 hours to master a subject. 10,000 hours. Who was it? Was it Malcolm Gladwell who said that? Well, actually, I would really like to challenge that, because we don't have 10,000 hours. We have today. And I'm a believer that accelerated learning is possible. There's a huge assumption that, number one, you can't transform people, that no one over the age of 18 could possibly learn something new. Well, we've taught people who are 70, who've worked in media, or thought that they were at the end of their careers. They've sat and learned alongside 17-year-olds. So number one, transformation is possible. And number two, accelerated learning is possible. We spend over 2 years, potentially, creating, let's say, a curriculum that lasts 24 hours, like a day, 8 hours. And the success of that 8 hours for us is if you learn more in those 8 hours than we believe that you could learn if you were left alone, challenged by your own emotional barriers at a laptop in a year. So learn in a day what you could learn in a year, because we need to learn fast. Now, you could take this a step further and say that the next iteration of human learning, just as the previous panel discussion was about robots teaching us, what about this new company that Elon Musk has invested in, Neuralink? A lace that goes into your brain that actually connects us to the World Wide Web and the global brain. How fascinating would that be? Then, really, that image of the Matrix, that sci-fi becomes true. You could learn Kung Fu in nanoseconds. But we're not there yet. And then, how about this? The most popular course online. It's not data science, it's not machine learning. It's learning how to learn. People are downloading a course that is teaching them how to learn. So human beings and our ability to adapt, our ability to learn, is possibly the most fascinating subject right now. Can we do it? Or are we going to wait for the next generation that we think innately might have these skills? Well, I think we can do it. We are learning beings. I'm passionate about learning, and I believe that anyone can learn anything. In fact, IBM have been implementing their own AI, Watson, on screening of new applicants within their business. They're looking for adaptability and propensity to learn. It is one of the most #1 employable traits in business right now. Can you change and can you learn? Because there's going to be so much learning and so much change needed in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, I slightly fibbed a bit earlier with my scary stories about us all being replaced by technology, and it's been touched on a lot throughout the conference. Here is an illustration from the late 1700s. It's a story called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. So the sorcerer leaves his apprentice alone in his workshop, and while he's away, he bewitches the sweeps and the brooms and all the instruments to do all the menial work for him. But then it goes out of control. And when he comes back, chaos. The machines, the technology and the wizardry and the magic has taken over. We have always been afraid of technology. Look at all the stories throughout history, from Frankenstein to even Disney stories. So let's just be conscious of our own fear of change. Number two is, this is an academic document from 1964, and I've been looking back at this theme of automation. We've been discussing automation for over 100 years now. And this is a long-range forecasting project looking at what roles are going to be easily replaced by machines. And what's very interesting is they're quite right. Very good at predicting what is going to be replaced by machines. We're good at that. What we're bad at, number one, is the timing. So in this list, it said that we would have like robo-doctors and robo-assistants in our house common by the 1990s. But then it says that by 2020, only by 2020, would we be able to read a digital version of a newspaper. We often get the timing wrong when we predict automation. But what's interesting is what it completely misses. And it completely misses the World Wide Web, and it completely misses the smartphone. I've talked a lot about technology, but I think the most fundamental and important part of creating the education system that we need to get us through the fourth industrial revolution is going to be this: the innovators. We never predict the innovators, the inventors, the Elon Musks of this world. We need to create an environment which is going to foster creativity, innovation, failure, and so many more of the other themes that we've seen on stage today. And finally, I just want to end on these words, which is Tim Berners-Lee said, inventor of the World Wide Web, this is for everyone. This is potentially one of the most democratic tools which has ever been created. Just imagine what we can do with it. And yet, we know that its power currently lies in that 0.001% of the world. That 0.001% of the world are coding, founding, funding our digital futures. I do believe that the future is written in lines of code, and I passionately want everyone to be part of that, no matter what age they are, no matter what gender they are, no matter what background they come from. DJ Patil talked about make sure we are solving the right problems. How do we know that we're solving the right problems without true diversity of thinking into those problems? So I want to leave on that I believe the technology revolution is one of the greatest opportunities. I do believe that the answer to the fourth industrial revolution is technology education. And this is going to be one of the most seismic moments for humanity when we put new tools in our hands. Just see what has happened throughout the years when that has happened. But this time is the power of AI, the power of the global human brain in everyone's hands. So thank you very much for having me here today. If anyone needs anything from me at all, just ask, and I will happily give it to you, from copies of the curriculum right through to any of the information about the schools that I think are innovating. And thank you very much, and I hope to see you later in the break.